buttons.
There it is.
Now I think we're live. Who wants to do
No
the
one
custom
all
voice?
speak at once now that we're live. Everybody's like,
Can you hear me out there?
is this thing on? No, anyways.
Who wants to do
No
the
one
custom
all
voice?
speak at
You can do the
once
host
now that
chatter
we're
while I
live.
watch the
Everybody's
delay.
Can you hear me out there?
Yeah, we got to turn that down.
Yeah, will you turn down the delay?
That's with anybody, I'm sure.
You can do the host chatter while I watch the delay.
Hey, now this is just fucking chaos. Just chaos.
Yeah, we got to turn that down.
I want popcorn so bad now.
Will you turn down the delay?
Yeah.
So you haven't turned it down because you could hear me saying you haven't turned it down.
Yeah, I have to mute it over here. Okay, there we go. I think that works.
All right.
We're good to go.
Did she mention that you guys are our guinea pigs?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We're up for it.
I
We're up
think it's
for it.
great. Oh, Kristen wasn't here for that. I
Why
told
were we guinea pigs?
because so we've only done a couple lives so far, and they've been on Instagram, which isn't a great platform for it. So we've been wanting to try the YouTube lives, and you're the first.
Wow.
And we were fully booked, but we wanted to get you guys in early because of some special things going on for you.
Right
So we
on.
were like, oh, we'll just do an extra live episode that week. And here we are.
You guys are popping our cherry.
We'll try
What
to
does
be
that-
kind and gentle.
What does that mean, Ryan? I don't understand.
Oh,
Thank you, Eric.
Can you explain for our listeners at home?
no, I don't think that I will, but thank you for offering that option.
Then I have to like check this is not made for children and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Not everybody will see it. The algorithm probably doesn't like that. So yeah, we
Maybe
won't-
they can Google it later on.
I'll Google it
Exactly.
later.
Okay.
Anyway, hello everyone. My name is Jess. You're
Hi,
listening to Ska Talk with Ska Gazine, our first time live on YouTube. I'm here with my co-hosts Eric and Ryan.
What's
Hi.
up, everybody?
And tonight we have some very special guests joining us from the Players Band. If you don't know them, I don't know why, they've been around for a very long time, over 25 years.
We're
Indeed.
old.
And they are a huge band, 10-piece, I believe, out of Baltimore, Maryland.
Yep.
Yep. Charm City
And-
represent.
We got 3 of them here with us tonight. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks
for
for
having
having us.
We have Andy, David, and Kristen, Lady Hatchet, you may know her as, like the rest of us. We're going to give them each a chance to go around and tell us how long they've been in the band, what their role is, and then we'll get started. I think Andy should go first since he's been in the band the longest, naturally. So you can
Indeed.
kick it off.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. Andy Schneider, drummer, co-founder, I guess, started the band in 99, played in a band called Mobtown Beat in high school days. And after that band broke up, just wanted to find a way to get back into the mix. And a couple of the guys that have been with us for 25 years, still with us. So been some continuity among the bandmates, but then over the years, we've added different horn players, different guitar, bass, keys. The mix has kind of grown over time. You mentioned 10 players. Yeah, usually somewhere between 9 and 11, depending on the night.
Lady Hatchet, you're next in
Yeah,
seniority.
I guess I have seniority on you. I was the new guy for a long time. I joined the band in 2008. I had moved down to DC to play in a band. And you're living with somebody and then the relationship goes sour and you're like, this isn't going to work anymore. And they're like, how long? And you say, how long till what? And they're like, how long till you get your crap out of my apartment? And I called up Players Band, longtime keyboard player, Pablo Fiasco, who I knew was living in a warehouse in Baltimore, and was like, hey, Bobby, can I move myself, my crap, and my cat into your warehouse tomorrow? And he said, come to Baltimore. And the next day, he brought me to my first Players Band gig. And he was like, this is how Pablo works. He's like, you're just going to be in the band now. I'm just going to bring you to the gig, and you're in the band now. And I was like, don't we?
The awesome thing is you rock. So we were like, she rocks.
Well, I was going to say only 2 people in the band at that time were psyched about me coming. You and Mark Leary, because Mark was like, oh, she got stage presence. We need that in the band. Everyone else was too concerned about money. Like, we don't want to split money with another person. But Um, a couple years went by. I learned the tunes. I got on the email list after year 3.
Oh God.
And honestly,
Made an honest woman out of you.
for a while, I like affectionately referred to myself as the utility infielder of the players band to make a nice baseball reference, which we've got a lot of O's fans in the house today. Um, yeah, like if the bass player was out, I would play bass. If the guitar player was out, I'd play guitar. If Pablo was on the West Coast, I'd play keys, you know?
Yeah.
When our longtime trombone player David Blackstone started to stop playing with the band, I got to start singing some of his songs. And then when longtime bassist Joe Ross moved to Denver, I got to take the bass chair. So now I am the bass player of the players band.
The moral of that story is if you don't want people to randomly move in with you, don't live in a warehouse.
Yeah,
You can't
right.
tell them you don't have room. I'm sorry.
Yeah, plenty of room.
I thought the moral was if you randomly move into a warehouse with somebody, you're going to end up in their ska band.
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah,
That was
yes,
it.
that's a
the
good
moral.
bet as well. I remember meeting you, Lady Hatchet, for the first time at a show at Baltimore's Inner Harbor. It was maybe the first time I ever sat in with the players, and this is, as Andy has told before, how a lot of members come to join the band. I play saxophone primarily, and I with 3 or 4 horn players, there's always somebody at another gig or can't make it or whatever, and so I was kind of the one of the folks they would call when that would happen to come fill in and sit in. And I remember that Inner Harbor show was the first time I ever played with you, Hatchet, in the players band. I don't remember how long ago that was. That's probably 15 years ago or something like that. Um, and the aforementioned David Blackstone, when he left the band permanently, he's not dead, people, don't worry. Um,
Big ups.
that's when I sort of planted my flag in more permanently. I think that was like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe something like that. But I've been players band adjacent pretty much since the beginning. I remember, doing the design for their records and things like that all along the way. And in Baltimore in the ska and reggae scene, everybody's in everybody's band and everybody knows everybody. So that's how that goes.
I was happy when you joined the band Silver Fox because you also bring a lot of live energy.
Oh, thank you. And silver hair.
He has some of the best silver hair, like of just about it. Jess, you're high on my list of like hair inspiration.
It's laziness for me.
Me too.
Well, you got those streaks,
Mhm.
It's all fancy. Yeah. Me and Eric, we're in the, yeah.
Oh,
Earn that club.
I like the crazy bald head club though.
Yes.
We definitely qualify for that.
I was telling Andy a couple days ago. I texted him when it happened. I was celebrating my son's birthday. We are in a random diner outside of Baltimore, and Crazy Baldhead started playing. I'm like, what? I mean, you could
Really?
see like One Love or Three Little Birds or something maybe coming on, but I wasn't expecting Crazy Baldhead to be the Bob Marley tune that starts blaring over the speaker.
That is awesome.
Revolutionary times we're living in.
What have you guys all been involved in other bands besides the Players Band? What other bands have you been involved in?
Many, many. As I said a minute ago, everybody's kind of to some degree in everybody else's band, either permanently on replacement, temporarily, or whatever. I'm sure among the three of us, Lady Hatchet leads the league in number of bands currently in and historically in. When I first met Andy and his brother when they were in high school doing the Mobtown Beat, another band of mine, Unity Reggae Band, we were rehearsing in the same studio in West Baltimore, and that's when we first crossed paths with them. And that band was and is still led by Mark Leary, who is also a keyboard player and vocalist in the Players Band, to my aforementioned point. And I've always threatened friends of ours in the scene that I'm going to make a matrix, a spreadsheet at some point and try and cross-reference every member in every band and see how they all intersect.
Well,
Kristen, how many are you with now?
Oh man. Well, I'm in a Players band. I have my new Lady Hatchet quartet. Um,
Amazing, by the way.
huh?
Amazing.
Oh, thank
It
you.
was
Thank
so
you.
great seeing you live with the
We will be in
Slackers.
we will be in Philly with the Slackers again on April 4th
April 4th,
at
yes, World
World
Cafe
Cafe
Live.
World Cafe Live, and then we will be in Baltimore at the Auto Bar on April 5th. Um, but actually, to get in the Wayback Machine real quick, my very first ska band that I played in when I was living in Boston, Take Five, did a few shows with Mobtown Beat
Is that
for
right?
the
Yeah.
New England Ska Fest
Oh my
in
gosh.
1998, I believe.
Wow.
Sounds right. Yeah.
And then, ironically, when I got kicked out of that band, it was Joe Ross, former bass player of the Players Band, who replaced me on guitar in that band.
Ooh.
So now the circle is now complete. I have
Yes,
replaced Joe Ross as the
exactly.
bass player.
So
Order
Joe's
has been
the
restored to the universe.
Joe's the guitar player for the Pie Tasters. He still's play. I mean, he travels, a fair amount and plays a lot of the tours with them from Denver. But yeah, he was doing the Pie Tasters and players for many years when he was here, and then when he moved to Denver, then
Mhm.
Kristen completed the circle. I'm looking at the other members, like Dan, my brother, who's our guitar player and also vocalist. He started the Loving Paupers. I don't know if you guys know that group.
Which is
Yeah, I saw them at
incredible.
the Supernova after party in
Yeah.
2023, I believe.
Paupers,
Fantastic.
We're good.
Paupers are great. Really,
Paupers
really
are probably
awesome.
my favorite, like current band in the scene. Like
They
they
are
just
for
the
me as well.
writing, the harmonies, like the arrangements, so
Really
smart,
awesome
so good.
songs.
Yeah.
Pablo, our keyboard player, he also plays keys in Left Alone. And I think Hatchet, they're LA based, I believe.
Yes.
They're out in California.
Yeah.
Hmm?
So they'll have like a run of shows and Pablo just hops on a plane and, flies southwest to LA and then plays with them for a couple weeks and then gets back on a plane and comes back to Baltimore. Nick Ryder, our trumpet player, plays trumpet in Bumpin' Uglies. They have like a massive following. They just played Reggae
Reggae
Rise
Rise
Up
Up.
in Florida
Yeah.
this weekend. Like massive audiences, which would be really cool. And then he plays with Jawworks here locally. They're a reggae band. They've been around longer than we have. They're also very good. Craig Considine, our trombone player, plays with a group called the Almighty Senators. They were a Baltimore institution for decades. They're like a funk band, and they just had a reunion show a couple months ago. Worth looking up. Not ska, but really funky and a very cool band to see live. I think those are the main ones, right? Am I
Mhm.
missing anyone?
That's about it.
Yeah.
With everybody in so many different bands, how do you guys find time to balance like your workload and figure out ways to work with each other?
The scheduling is hectic. Like at the beginning of the year, usually in in January and February, I just have, the Google Calendar and then the Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel sheets just all laid out to try and figure out who is available and when. And, there are going to be times where we have to have a fill in here and there, but I think with 10 people in the band, usually it's not the case where they're going to be like, wait a minute, where's the trombone player? Or like, wait a minute, this is a different keyboard player. So there is a little bit of interchangeability that we just have to deal with. But for the most part, we're just able to work around people's schedules. And I think since we're not playing every weekend, we average, 10 to 15 shows a year. It's pretty manageable for everyone.
How do you guys get together and practice then?
Do what now?
Yeah,
Practice.
talking about practice. No, that
We
doesn't
sitting
happen.
here. I'm supposed to be franchise player, and we're here talking about practice.
Yeah.
Not a game. Not a game.
No, so
Sounding
like
Edwin Iverson here.
Yeah.
yeah, the issue with not practicing is we have no problem like staying tight and playing the songs that we know. I think the only issue is really new material. And that's part of the reason why we wrote the record that we're putting out now is we went so many years without really having a lot of new material. And I thought putting an album together would kind of force us to like sit down and actually write tunes and then make sure everybody could learn those tunes to actually play live. So we'll probably do some rehearsals over the next month or two.
But we did, winter time is a good time to try and get together because that's when everyone's gig schedule is a lot lighter. And I think that's what we did. We started learning the new original tunes and everything last winter, the winter before, actually the winter before last, gave ourselves a good summer's worth of playing those new tunes out and getting tight as a band before we got in the studio and recorded them.
I think one thing I really appreciate about the Players above a lot of other bands is I think the Players have it kind of worked into its just foundation of existence that people are going to have other gigs, and we have such talent. Again, to make a baseball reference, we have such a deep bench as far as talent goes, people who can play multiple instruments, people on the substitute roster that we can pull up when we need them. And I think the name the Players Band, it really has this connotation like everybody in the band is badass. So, if somebody's going to be missing, for some bands that would just, send everybody into like, the throes of anxiety, but for us it's like, okay, whatever. Like who can sing
That's
what?
called a normal
Who can
gig.
who can play what what, how do we cover the spread, so to speak? How do we have, you know okay, enough horn players, enough singers, enough, and we always make it work. And I don't think there's ever been a gig where we were really like caught with our pants down, so to speak. I think we've always kind of like put on a very high quality performance, and that's something I really appreciate about this band.
It's actually fun
David,
in a way because, it keeps you on your toes a little bit.
Oh,
You can play all summer with all the same people playing the same set list and you're kind of on autopilot. But when all of a sudden you're like taking on somebody's background vocal parts or switching your horn part to another one because so and so wasn't there, or whatever, you got to really focus and pay a lot of attention, which I like.
And you have a new album coming out very soon called Skagzilla. Uh, so,
Zilla.
yay. Based on that, like, what is your creative process with you guys kind of as you said, having other things going on? Is there one person who is kind of the creative force behind it, or is it a collab? How do you write songs?
Oh, for this record, I mean, it's probably similar for most of the recent records, but for this one, our last record, Board, had been out, I don't know, a couple of years, and Andy just called up a number of folks in the band and said, "Hey, let's start trying to write some new tunes." And a lot of them started individually with different members of the band. A lot of different members contributed writing on this album. Um, and some of them were more collaborative. Somebody would come up with the groove, other people would come up with lyrics and things like that. But it took at least a year of sort of stopping and starting and working together and fits and starts to get sort of most of the writing done. And some came together at the last moment, really. Kristen, your song Cut and Run, I think, was one of the last ones to sort of get finished before we recorded. Another one of mine, Wanted, was another one that came together right at the last moment. But some of them had been being worked on for a couple of years at least. So it's kind of a scattershot approach.
what's really cool for me is not a songwriter, is being able to work with guys like David and Kristen and my brother Dan, where Dan is always coming up with new ideas, and he has just this like MIDI folder where he'll put together tunes, and it doesn't have lyrics, doesn't have horn parts per se, but just he's doing his thing on the keyboard and writing out songs. So I remember before we put this record out, he probably showed me 45 or 50 song, concepts or ideas that he had in this folder. And I could just kind of go through and cherry pick the tunes that I thought were the best. Um, let's say I picked, I don't know, well, 5 or 6 tunes. And then 2 of them, he was like, Pauper's already took that one, or Pauper's already took that one. But yeah, I got most of the ones that I wanted. So yeah, really cool to work with guys like these guys that actually know how to write music.
My impression of the songwriting process in the Players Band is I get a text from Andy that's like, "Yo, when can I get a song from you? And I'm just like, okay, hold on. And then
Yeah.
I'll like kick him a few ideas. He's like, I like this one. Put words to that one. Yo, when can you put words to this one? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, it's not that easy. Come on.
Yeah.
But that was basically it.
And this album was mixed by Vic Rice, and then you also brought on Vic from the Slackers to do some guest vocals. So, what goes into your guys' decision-making process as far as who you bring on to help you with this album or to guest on them?
I think it was an easy decision to have Victor Rice work with us on the mixing, and he also helps farm out the mastering with a partner of his down in Sao Paulo. He's worked on 3 of our 6 albums, and we recorded at Right Way Studios in downtown Baltimore with, just a fabulous engineer, and the studio itself is really top notch. And then people like Kristen and David and others in the band have capability of recording in their own home studios, which is also a matter of convenience. But all the rhythm tracks we did in Baltimore, and it's hard to explain like the difference in the sound between the clean recordings that we get from the studio, both home studio and in the actual studio, and then when we get the final mixes back from Victor Rice. I mean, it's the clean recordings sound great, but there's just something magical about Victor's ability to put his own imprint on the music, and it really just shines. It sounds completely different, between the clean and the mixed version. So that's what Victor has done for many, many decades now. And then working with Vic Ruggiero, we had Steve Jackson sit in on a tune on the last record, Get in the Van, that was written by Joe Ross. um, we had another song, Foolin', written by Joe Ross, and Joe expressed interest in singing the tune, but we also knew that he was moving to Denver and that he would not be afforded the opportunity to sing that tune with us when we played it live. So when we heard the tune, I mean, it's such a cool tune, but I just immediately thought of Vic Ruggiero's kind of soulful singing style, and I thought it would just be an unbelievable fit for the song. So I think what's great about the ska scene is if you've been in it long enough, especially for us playing in a band, you get to know these guys pretty well. So it was no issue for us to just, you know, text. I can't remember. Maybe Kristen sent Vic a text, or we just reached out to him directly and said, "Hey, what do you think?" He said, "Send me the tune. I'll let you know." And he listened to the tune, loved it. We had a show at the Slackers last year at the Auto Bar as well, and Right Way Studios is located a block and a half from the venue. So we said, hey, just come a couple hours early. We'll set the stuff up. We'll pop out real quick, lay down the vocals at the studio, and then head back right to the club. And it worked out great.
Awesome.
Sorry, I just made it. So you have the album all ready to go, basically. It's recorded, it's mixed, you released 2 singles. You are planning on releasing it on vinyl and having it pressed, but first started this Kickstarter so that you could help fund the upfront costs of making a vinyl. Can you talk to our listeners about what it's like to be a musician and have to put out those costs? Like everyone looks at it probably like it's a glamorous life, but making a vinyl is expensive.
It's pretty costly. And the other thing too is, we do have 10 in the band, and I think we had 14 musicians on the project. And when you go to the studio to record, like they charge you an hourly or a daily rate. And if you go to a decent studio, it's expensive. But fortunately, we were able to knock out all the rhythm tracks in 2 days, which was really great. But studio time is expensive. Printing vinyl is expensive. We only have 2 covers on the album, a Tom Petty cover and what's the other, Miles
Miles
Davis
Davis. Yep.
cover.
Hmm.
Yeah, so if you want to appropriately use cover tunes, you have to pay for licensing. So I think all in, we're probably around 10 grand between studio, licensing, printing all the stuff, shipping all the stuff out. So I mean,
Mixing, mastering.
it's
Yeah.
real money.
Yeah.
So the idea for the Kickstarter was, and it was funny, we mentioned this before, there was a post on Reddit when we had mentioned that we were putting out the album, and some guy was like, "Hey, why don't you guys just sign up with a record company and let them do all that?" And I'm like, Man, that is such a good idea. We could get a we could get a record deal. Yeah, I mean, record
Lot of
deals aren't so easy to come by. So yeah, we had to go on our own. And if you're going to go on your own, might as well, try to do some crowdfunding. And there's no risk to the project. Like the project's done. We submitted the stuff for printing, so it's already at the printers, all good. But I think, sort of helping spread the word about the album, get people excited about it, and then selfishly for me, I'm going to be the guy going to the post office. So I remember for the last album, I went to the post office like every third day for 6 months or something. So it was just not a very efficient use
To
of
send
time.
out orders for records and CDs and
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll tag in and say that I think people don't understand that the market for music has changed so much. So what you think is the way that a band operates to put out an album is not at all what it used to be. Um, vinyl sales went up for a while, but I think major labels really blew the bottom out from that market because when with the advent of streaming, people don't buy physical formats as much anymore, and that really hurt majors in a big way. But vinyl sales were always very consistent, and they actually at a certain point vinyl sales actually kind of eclipsed CD sales there, maybe in the
Mhm.
last maybe 5 years ago. And that's when major labels thought, oh, well, we're not making money on CDs, but if we print, and everyone wants to stream, but people like big art. So if we press things to vinyl, people will buy it. There's a market for it. So they flooded vinyl pressing plants with all their releases, and it effectively shut out smaller labels and independent bands to the tune of 6 months lead time. Like you drop off your album and you wouldn't get it for 6 months.
Mhm.
But now because of that, because I hate to dog on Taylor Swift, she gave me a job as a guitar teacher, inspired a generation of girls. But and they all wanted a girl teacher. But I will say this, she releases her album on like three different colored vinyls with three different covers, and it's the same music. But then her fans get mad because they're like, yo, I don't want to buy all the, I don't want to buy the album why do I need to buy it three times? Oh, why is it now coming out with a limited edition track and now I got to buy that one? And I think fans got very frustrated with the way that majors handled vinyl. And now we are in a place where people are buying, like post pandemic, people aren't spending as much money as they were when they were in the lockdown. People are like, the economy is not in a good place. People are just not spending as much money, full stop. And so smaller labels don't want to take a chance to put out a band, even though, the player's been around for 30 plus years, have members in it from lots of notable bands within the scene, but still smaller labels are gun shy because the profit margin is like, the break even is so, you have to sell so many, and it's not a guaranteed thing anymore. People aren't just like, oh, I'll take a chance on this band I don't know anymore. Like, people are very tight when it comes. They don't spend like they used to on vinyl. So the idea of like, oh, just get on a record label, that's not real anymore, unfortunately. And like, some people have day jobs that are lucrative, but you see that crock pot? That's how I'm gonna eat for the week. Okay, being a professional musician is not glamorous. Like there's I'm baking bread right now. The oven's gonna ding in about 5 minutes. All right, like this was a show beer. I saved this from a gig.
No,
So,
I know once you get involved once with a record label, they want to have their hands involved in the process of it and the recording of it, the product that's going to come out of it. So, there is a lot of freedom and some leeway when it comes to doing things independently. You can put whatever type of message that you want in your music and in the art and everything behind it, and have really a part of you, in what you're making, which I think is really awesome. So
There's
Yeah.
also an expectation a lot of times with labels of a tour to support records when they come out, that the bands are going to go on the road. And, we've already talked about the scheduling with the players band and how everyone's in a lot of bands. It's not just, we can't just pick up and say, hey, we're going to be gone for the next 3 months on tour. It's not so simple for us. So that's another part of the independence that works out for us. And those costs that Andy was outlining, I mean, there was a tremendous amount of DIY in this record, and we still have that many costs. When we recorded a lot of this ourselves and did a lot of the editing and so on. So, it adds up.
Yeah, 100%.
So for our
Um,
listeners that are not familiar with Kickstarters, I have done some. I've got an album that way. I am a vinyl collector and I still spend money on vinyl. I'll probably go do the Kickstarter like as soon as we're done here.
Right on.
But tell them how this works. To me, it's really not that much different than pre-ordering a vinyl, you know?
It can be that simple. I mean, and so Kickstarters work based on donations. And typically, all the Kickstarters have rewards for the people that donate at different levels, different amounts. You can donate whatever you want, of course, but there's some sort of preset rewards to give an idea for folks. Hey, if you give $40, then you're going to get this or whatever. And Kickstarter also works. Another thing notable about it is, the person putting on the Kickstarter sets a goal, a monetary goal to reach, and you have to reach that goal or you get none of it. So it's an all or nothing proposition, and it's time sensitive. Ours is running from 1st of March to the end of March, so 1 month's time to reach our goal. But yeah, so the rewards, uh, pre-ordering, digital download, all 14 tracks, pre-ordering a CD, pre-ordering it on vinyl, CD and vinyl, digital download and vinyl, all those different kinds of things. And then we've come up with some other interesting rewards as well. Certainly, we've got the merch, the shirts and stickers and all that kind of stuff. But um, Lady Hatchet was talking about how the band members in this band are kind of all players. Well, we are, and she also talked about how she teaches guitar and everything. So that's another thing. There are lessons that you can purchase through our Kickstarter campaign. You can get an hour lesson with Lady Hatchet on guitar, or I can't remember all the different ones that were kicking in, drums, keyboards, that sort of thing. So you can get lessons with members of the players band as well as some of the rewards.
I have a drummer child.
There you go.
Oh, rock on.
I love your drummer child. Pick up the ox.
That's pretty cool.
Definitely
I think we're going to be adding some new things to it as well,
right?
right, Andy? Sorry, we got some new Skazilla swag coming out soon that I think we may add to the Kickstarter as well.
The Skazilla shirts are off the hook, so we got to get them up there shortly.
Sorry to cut you off, Ryan.
Awesome. So what is your goal and how far along are you towards that goal?
We're
5K.
exactly halfway, right?
Yeah.
Halfway through the month and halfway to our goal
Okay.
as of today, as of this evening. So we're trying to get to $5,000. We'd love to eclipse that. Andy mentioned what it costs to make, so we're trying to recoup some of the costs of what we've put out to make the record, and we're about halfway there.
Okay. Well, you got this.
All right. So since we're talking about the record, how will we get into some of the songs that you guys have released so far? We've got a segment called Brain on Ska where we like to get into some of the lyrics and the meaning behind it. And since you guys did have all that freedom to say whatever it is that you wanted to, how about we start with that first single that you guys released, What I See? Who was it that wrote that one?
I wrote that song. Yeah.
Okay. What can you tell us about it, David?
Well, let's see. I've been writing songs. I'm not a prolific songwriter, but I've been writing songs for a long time and kind of focused a lot of my writing over the years on things that I personally experienced, knew about, or really cared about. Um, like a lot of songwriters do. And then I went through this phase of listening to a lot of one of my favorite musicians, Tom Petty, sort of American icon, incredible songwriter. And I worked on a project where I did reggae covers of Tom Petty's Wildflowers album, partly because I wanted to sort of take another approach to songwriting, and I appreciated his songwriting so much that I wanted to sort of get inside of his music and his songs a little bit more in depth than just listening to them. And it wasn't exactly my intention, but the first two or three tunes that I wrote lyrics for after going through that process came out a lot more sort of blue collar sounding than what I typically would have written about, or a little bit more on the storytelling side, which was a really big component of Tom Petty's songwriting. And so what I see, I think, is an example of that. I wasn't necessarily, while some of the emotions and things like that that are part of the lyrics are certainly come from me, I was really looking outside of myself in the storytelling part of it. And it's really about somebody who just runs into their ex at a bar or a show or something like that one night, and has been going through a lot of hard times, hasn't been, you know, super successful person in their own mind or whatever, but they run into their ex, and instead of sort of this kind of it starts out, you think they're sort of like, hey, come back, begging them to come back to you, but what it's really all about is letting your ex know how much you appreciate who they are and how much they've inspired you to be a better person yourself. And that's really what the message of that song comes down to.
I like that. Even in bad experiences, there's always a lesson to be learned. So it's definitely awesome message. And if I remember correctly, you wrote that second one, Lady Hatchet, Cut and Run.
I did. I did. Uh, it could be, you could say it was about ending a relationship, but there's without going into things too specifically, there are different kinds of relationships. There are relationships you have romantically, there are relationships you have with bandmates, there are relationships you have just friendships in life and whatnot. A little known backstory. Speaking of Vic Ruggiero, he was he was staying at my house because he was doing a solo gig at Blue Beat DC, the monthly ska night in DC. And Vic notoriously sleeps till like the afternoon. Like he doesn't really function before like 3 p.m. usually. And I was up, and Andy had sent me that text, yo, we're going to the studio in like a month. Like, what new songs do you have? And I'm like, bah, why am I so late in the process? Wah. So I was in the basement going through like loose sheets of paper where I like sometimes jot down lyrics, but also like chord progressions. Sometimes if I have an idea, like sometimes I don't capture it on my phone. Sometimes I just, because I teach music lessons and I'm used to making charts, I just like make a quick chart. And I was going through stuff and I found this one tune and I was like, and it's funny, I was trying to write another song, one that actually I eventually did write for what's going to be on the upcoming Lady Hatchet Quartet album. But I had this first attempt at writing this song that was completely different. And when I was going back through to my notes and I was playing through stuff, I was like, you know what? This would sound great for the Players Band because I can hear it with big horns and stuff. So I like sent Andy a couple of just quick demos and was like, pick one, and he picked this one. And then he was like, just come up with some lyrics. Just come up with some lyrics. And I'm like, it's not that
I'm
easy.
not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
But I'll tell you, maybe it's different for Dave, but for me, when it comes to lyrics, like either they come out like in one fell swoop. I'm going to use this example that I think I've used with y'all before and probably embarrass Dave and Andy in the process. It comes out with like a great poop. Like it just falls right out of you, or you're going to be working on that so hard. Literally, you're going to be like literally like working and I didn't have lyrics for this one for a couple months. And then I was, how can I say this kindly? It was like, that point where a relationship is going south and you just hit the point where you're like, that's it. I'm not gonna be able to go forward with like that. This is it. And that first line, well, that's it. You finally were that was like me getting off the phone and literally being like, that's it. I can't do this anymore. Wait a second. That's it. You finally worked my last, and I just that was when the magical poop just of lyrics just fell out of me. And I wrote that song lyrically in like it took me a couple hours, not even. Like it was so fast. Yeah, I think from the time when I sat down and was like, let's put this all down to the time when I had recorded an iPhone demo and sent it to Andy, it was like an hour or two. It was that fast.
That's crazy.
That's
I
what I
wonder if
always
we can
think
get a
about
poll
your
going.
songs, Hatchet.
Huh?
Your songs always sound like fully formed songs. It's just like they sound like actual songs. I feel like I'm trying to piece together Frankenstein things together that I think are, I've heard before. That kind of sounds like what a song is supposed to sound like. Your songs just come out sounding like songs every time, and it's just
Oh,
like, wow, there it is.
well, I always say this to people who are all like I've heard from different colleagues, oh, I can't write songs. I just can't sit down and write a song. And I'm like, nah, I call bullshnikes because trying to keep it real for the children. Um I think what it is when I got kicked out of my first ska band, I knew I was like, all right, no one is going to play. The way that I will get people to play with me is I have to learn how to write songs.
Mhm.
And, like the way you learn how to write songs is just by figuring out your process. And I know that sounds kind of simplistic, but that's really all it is you have to figure out what works for you. Um, for me, I know I have to I have to work at it every day. And when I'm actively trying to write songs, I have to write every day. And it can be as simple as I write like 3 sentences, or I write 3 paragraphs, or I write 3 pages. But like you just have to get in the habit of writing, and you have to get in the habit of playing, and also like listening to your own voice. For me, like the songs fall out easier when I'm like really listening to myself, when I'm like humming that song in the shower or the car. I have to be, oh, that's good. Let's go get that. Let's go capture it before
Mhm.
it goes up back to the ether. And you have to kind of just be very in tune with yourself in that way. And like, I'm not prolific either, since when did I start writing songs? I got kicked out, and since 1998, when I got kicked out of said ska band, um, I have probably written like 2 to 4 songs a year. Maybe, 5 is like, wow, we're having a banner year here. But like, you know, it's really just learning your process and learning how to do things that help to facilitate the songs coming out of you. Like the really good ones are the ones that fall out of you, like the magical poop. But the ones that are, but then you can also, if you understand how your process, how to make that stuff come out of nowhere, um, you can help facilitate, you can grind out some. I've had to grind, I mean, some of my favorite songs that I've written, I've had to grind them out, like where I'm like, I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to be saying here, but you keep writing and trying to fill in the blanks, and it's just all about understanding, knowing your process. That's all.
You're
Eat your
deep.
metaphorical fiber.
Huh?
Eat
Yes.
your metaphorical fiber,
Yes.
get a good habit.
Yes.
So that way you can write songs steadily.
Fall out easily,
Your
Skull laxative.
your poop analogy, just so you know.
Next album.
It could be
I love a good
constipation.
Scott
Yeah, constipation.
I give up.
Andy. No. So many ska puns. So little time.
Skull laxative.
Skalaxid.
That sounds too close to my last name, though. I don't know how I feel about that. Polinski. So we're right there. We're tiptoeing that edge.
You'll be saying that as a band name soon.
Right.
Oh my
There
god.
is Compository already.
Is there really? Oh my gosh.
Andy has so many bad ska puns.
I like
Like-
Skank Williams. I heard they broke up though.
There you go. I was definitely like, dude, just call the album Walk and Live. We have a song named Walk and Live. We got an album. There you go. He's like, no, it has to be a ska pun. And I was like, I got nothing. That's all you, kiddo.
I'm kind of curious if we can take a Skagazine poll, though. If anybody else can relate to that magic poop about the songwriting process.
That's what I was gonna say. That
Yeah.
is such a great analogy. Like, so you brought that up when we talked to you before. I have used that analogy so many times in my life since that moment. And every time I do, people are like, "Oh yeah, I get that. I understand."
Like, I know it sounds a little bit vulgar and crass,
But it's true.
it's not. It's like songs fall out of you. Like, I firmly believe that when you are really inspired, you are just a conduit for from
From a poop.
from the. I had a film. I was a film major in college for a couple years, and I had a professor explain inspiration as going to the musey room, like visiting the muse. And so when a good song comes and they come fast, like they're the ones that just fall out as fully formed songs and they don't take that much effort. Those are the magical poops. They literally just fall out of you. But like in my lifetime, I think I've had maybe like 7 of those, maybe 10. The rest of the songs that I've ever written, I've had to work at them. Like maybe I only had a verse and part of a chorus, and then I, wrote some more. No, you just have to, it's like you have to just be so, like, have myopic in your focus about, I just want to do this thing and make the time for, if it's important to you, you make the time for it.
You have to really want it.
Segue? Is that a segue?
I think that was a segue.
Yes.
You guys.
Yes.
The unreleased.
Well done, Ryan.
Right?
That's right. So tomorrow, St. Patrick's Day, no, just a coincidence, but tomorrow, our third and final single off the Skazilla album is being released. It is called Wanted.
It's out in
another
Hong
song
Kong
I
and
wrote.
Singapore right now.
It's available in Singapore right now.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. It's out now.
Yeah.
In reggae and ska music, I think there's a long, beautiful, storied tradition of writing new songs over rhythms from other songs, right? I've probably played 3 different songs over top of the Hot Milk rhythm, for example, the Answer rhythm. There's a million of them, right? The Promised Land rhythm, And so there's a long tradition of that. And so I'm driving across country home from visiting my family in Arizona 2 Christmases ago, listening to Bob Marley radio, I think it was, Tough Gong radio, and Wanted, Dread or Alive by Peter Tosh comes on. And that was just the funkiest bass line. As soon as it hits, I'm just like, oh man, I'm just having fun driving. And I'm like, as soon as I get back to Maryland, I'm writing a song with using that bass line. And that's what I did. Probably was within 3 or 4 days after getting back home that I was sending Andy a demo of Wanted. And not just the bass line, but using the title of the song as inspiration as well. But of course, Peter Tosh's Wanted, Dread or Alive is more about like his oppression in a society and things like that for Rastafarians living in Jamaica. For me, this was a case unlike the last song I was talking about, where I really was sort of taking myself to therapy and pouring out my innermost thoughts in a song and kind of just sorting through some of my own sort of emotional content and feelings, wondering, why do I care so much what people think about me, sort of asking myself that question.
I can't wait to hear it.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that message because we got to feel comfortable in our own skins. I do, at least. It took a long time to get to that point, but I'll admit it, I go to AA to thy own self be true. You know, it's something that really meant a lot to me and has really helped me find myself and a life I want to live. So, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing the work.
Yeah.
Works if you work it.
Not everybody does it in this life, so thank you for doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all very excited to hear the album. Sounds like
We're super excited for people to hear it. We're really proud of how everything turned out, and so many talented folks, played a part in doing it. And I think, it's people refer to it as birthing a baby or whatever. It's just like we're excited for the world to meet our new baby.
Which feels very similar, I'm gonna say.
That's real.
Except that you want the world to meet your new baby. You don't want the world to meet your poop.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. I mean, I've had some good poops.
Okay.
I don't know.
No, after I ate beets, when my boobs are
God, no.
All right. That's
in
good.
shade of
What's the
purple,
next
I'm like,
segment?
So speaking of the new album and in vinyl, is vinyl a sure thing at this point in time, or what do your fans have to do to make this happen?
Vinyl's happening, CDs are happening, digital is happening. We're working on another thing that's like quasi related to this record as well. It's too early to make any announcements yet, but um
Kind of sounds like
for
an announcement, but
the for the
Great non-announcement.
for this album, we had to make the difficult decision to exclude 2 tracks from the physical vinyl itself because you can only fit, what is it, like 23 minutes per side kind of thing.
Give or take.
We had the same issue on the last album, and I think the last album was like 88 minutes of music, which was ridiculous. But 4 of those tracks were dub tunes. So they were the same tunes on the record, but dubbed versions done by Victor Rice. So yeah, we might have a follow-up to this one, but for this particular record, vinyl is 100% happening. So no concern there. It's already off to the printers.
so how else are you guys promoting this? Are you guys doing any live shows? How can people support you? Obviously the Kickstarter, but what do you got going on as far as this goes?
Kickstarter would be best. We are absolutely hounding all of our friends, family, colleagues, bosses to try and get the Kickstarter.
Unsuspecting strangers.
Yeah, I mean anything that moves, they're going to know about the Kickstarter. We are playing with the Toasters in Baltimore in May. I think hoping to
16.
have May 16th, hoping to have the physical product in hand for that gig, which would be really cool. And then putting a couple feelers out there to possibly do some short runs later in the fall or winter. So we'll just be sure to keep everybody posted on, trying to get to Philly, maybe a Chicago, Boston, that kind of thing. So
Detroit.
yeah, Detroit, Motor City.
I like how
Yeah.
you jumped around us.
Y'all
Chicago back to
Midwest folk, you are the best live audiences, hands down.
Hatchet. Tell them Detroit is a good time. Help me out.
I've always had like Michigan people.
I know
have
you.
been good my
You
whole
are part
life.
of Detroit. You are part of Detroit.
Big up all my people in the D.
But that's another answer to the question, what can folks do? And just coming out and seeing shows is the biggest thing people can do. We do this to share music and have an experience with people that are there in the crowd and with one another on stage. And it just works a lot better if there are people there in the crowd to hear it. And we just, we really vibe off it and just, whether it's our band, another ska band, some other genre, just support local music, support the bands you love and get out there and see them play.
That's one of the biggest messages we try to spread on every one of our interviews and everything we post, because being on the other side, we want more people out there with us.
Yep. Absolutely.
We want to see it succeed and see it grow.
COVID really put the hammer down on live music, and all of us on this call know that well, and are felt that really for years after, and it's slowly crawling back, but even still some beloved institutions shutter their doors and all this kind of stuff. And I think there is just a general feeling even still about across the country, probably across the world, of people just not feeling as comfortable or wanting to go out and be out and about quite as much as they maybe did pre-COVID. And it just it made it a lot harder as a live performing musician, not just to find the gigs, but to gin up the crowds when you do get out there. And so, boy, we really appreciate it when people do.
So
I
for the
think
people who do want to see you live and you don't have the announcements yet, tell them where they can find you and stay up to date on these things.
Playersband.com.
That's
That's
the
it.
easiest. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, all of that, but the schedule's always there and up to date on our website, playersband.com.
Do you have a mailing list that they can sign up from there or no?
I don't think.
No, no, you won't need the mailing list. We'll find you.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
We go door to door.
Yeah.
I would like to interject. I would like to interject that if anyone is ever in the Baltimore area on a night when the Players Band is playing at Nick's Fish House, I highly recommend. That's kind of our Baltimore home rather. It's right on the water. We play 3 sets. It's free. You can come and get some nice Maryland seafood. You can watch your O's game on the screen, drink some Natty Bows, Hon. And it really is like a really fun time with the Players Band. Um, People come out, people travel to see us on that gig. Like the people at Nick's are always like, you guys pull in a whole crowd of people that normally don't come to Nick's, and they come specifically to see the players. It's a really fun time.
It's
I
it's a
always
great Baltimore experience for sure.
I always tell people when they're like, "Where are you playing, Kristen?" I'm like, "Please come to Nick's and see me with the players because it's fun, it's free,
It's
and
early. It starts at like 5 to 9 or something like that. So you
Sounds
can
like a
bring the
road trip to
family.
us.
How often does this happen?
We're there 3 or 4 times over the summer,
Okay,
typically.
that's an easy drive for me.
Yeah.
Jess, you want to meet
right
that?
off 95 too. It's so easy, and
Yeah, you don't
there's
even have
always
to get
there's
into the
parking. There
city.
used to be more parking, but there's still parking,
Yeah.
and it's like yeah, it's really easy to get to. It's
Right off the
free.
highway. Yep.
You can get your crabs, your crab cakes, whatever kind of fish you want. They've got, like all the beverages, all the sports ball, and the players band. What else could you want? It's
Oh,
so fun. We
Jess,
always,
road
and
trip?
later in the summer when we're really locked in as a band, like, oh, we have fun. Like that's a real musician's gig. We get to stretch out some tunes, take some longer solos, do some versions. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So,
like I said,
look at
5 to 9. So we're playing for a long time on those shows. So
yeah.
I'm in. I'm in. Let me know when they happen.
yeah.
Yeah,
We'll do.
man.
We'll do.
First one's
go
in
to
Come
April,
their
I
on,
think.
website.
the land of
They got a
pleasure.
website, Eric.
That's right.
Really,
Players.
what is that website, Ryan? Let's just plug this. Do you remember it?
Playersband.com.
That's it. That's the
Easy
one.
enough.
That was a question mark, but you did so good. So traditionally we end with talking about how important it is to be part of your scene. But actually, David, I think you did that
I
for
already
me.
did it. I stole your
You,
thunder. I'm sorry.
you did it, and that's okay. But I will give a friendly reminder to what you said. You guys have a Kickstart going on where people can get involved and get some cool stuff that's going to support you guys. And
Great way to be in the
general,
scene.
yeah, in general, show up to the shows. Like regardless of if you're in Detroit, Baltimore, Philly, wherever you're at, uh, the scene only lives if people actually show up and be part of that scene. So
Even if you have nobody to go with, you will make friends.
I'd also like to interject
I'm
that
Jess.
now especially community is very important. Not
Amen.
like your online community is important, but your physical community, the people that you can see and touch and can actually be there for you in the flesh is more important now than ever. And I think like showing up for like if there's a good show, go check in with your community, go pick up some of those good vibes and, be with your like-minded people. It's really important.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all hurting right now.
And I will speak for myself here for a second, not going deep. And if you've listened to this podcast, I have gone deep before, but really the people in my local scene and the people who show up at shows and have been messages with me when I went through some really traumatic and rough times in life. These are the people who got me through it. It wasn't the people I've known for 20 years. It was the people who were people who had been involved in the scene who sent me messages being like, hey man, what's going on with you? Let's talk about this. You okay? So like being involved in the scene isn't just great concerts, it's friends that you'll have for life and people who will support you and care about you. And really there's nothing better, you know?
I was saying the other day, and I appreciate that, Eric. You know, the other beauty of sort of seeing local music at smaller venues and local bands and things like that. For me as a musician and as a spectator, I sort of think about it from both sides of the coin. But as a musician, I love interacting with the people that came out to the show. If you go see a super famous band at a big arena, you're certainly not going to be doing that. But at these places, at least speaking for myself, I love hearing from folks. What are they like? You know, so on and so forth. And I love going up and talking to musicians and bands that I go see myself. It's just it's part of the experience. And you know, I encourage anyone that goes to see a band, go up and say hey to the band members, the musicians, talk to them, tell them what you like.
And half the shows I go to, the beautiful part is I fanboy people. They are literally working their own merch tables. So I can
Yeah,
watch them do a set, then can go over and be like, dude, I love you guys. Like,
yeah,
look, I got a tattoo of your band. Like, it's fucking amazing. Like,
right.
so it is an amazing thing.
Yep.
If you want to get a tattoo of any of my bands, I'll give you free shit. Oh, sorry.
Shoot, I might just do that. I might just do that for you, Lady Mitch.
I want to say it first.
Scottzilla's available. You can get a tattoo of that. That's pretty bad looking.
I might. Do you have like a version of Skazilla with like the checkered? What am I doing?
Dude, we'll get you
We're
whatever
getting
you
there.
need, man.
Yeah,
You know,
we're
you
getting
make
there.
me a Skyzilla tattoo and I will get it done. This is a promise on live YouTube.
There it
Come up
is.
with something, I will get it
Hold you
tattooed
to
on my body.
that.
There
I'm an easy sell. So,
Yeah.
Got to be right here too, right? Just right.
so I will
Godzilla.
be waiting for the picture. I will send it off to my tattoo artist. I mean, actually, Godzilla is a Scott person. Might be a fucking great tattoo. So make it and I will get it.
Add them to your circle pit.
There it is.
Ooh, so I do. I got a circle. You can't see it, but I got a circle pit going around my arm. I will add it to the circle pit if you create it.
Dude, that's
awesome.
so rad.
Looks like you only got room in the armpit at this point, though.
Mm. You gotta, but you'll be back right next to the mustard plug, dude.
There
So,
you go.
Right?
There you go.
That's
so it's a
rad.
good spot. It's a good
Yep.
spot.
That's a tender
Wall of
spot.
fame right there.
It is a tender
That is a
spot,
tender
but it's
spot,
okay.
actually.
Yeah.
All right, I'm holding you guys to it.
Oh, we're gonna
I
hold
will
you.
have your band tattoo here as soon as you send it to me.
All right.
All right. Is that it, Jess? You got any
I think
closing?
that's it.
Anybody?
I'll
have closing
remind
comments?
everybody that they're listening to Ska Talk with Skagazine. This was a live episode. I will be posting it to Spotify. So go over and follow there if you don't do YouTube, or subscribe to YouTube, and I post all of our interviews
And
there.
as everyone, help us too. Like as a podcast and as a media person, our passion is to like talk to bands and promote them and really to promote your local scenes. Like I can speak for myself, Jess, Ryan. We're involved in our local scenes, and there's nothing better. We look forward to it. We love the people in our scenes, and that's what we're here to promote.
I live for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
literally. So I think that's how we all met each other, right?
Right on.
I'm in the process of trying to build one right now because I gotta go 2 hours to get to a decent show.
Hmm.
So Davey said your wife was a Chippewa, right?
That's me. Yeah.
Andy's
Andy,
wife was
yeah.
Chippewa.
Yep.
Okay.
If you want to play Hickman,
I'm working with the Broadway to get shows in there again.
Oh.
It's like a 300-400 capacity venue that would be awesome.
Mm.
So I just got appointed as concert committee chair. So we're working on a show in September to bring some
Awesome.
people in. So yeah, if you guys do come to Michigan, if you're ever interested in playing the Broadway theater, Mount Pleasant, putting on a show
That's
for the
awesome.
Chippewas.
Already in
Love to have you.
Mount Pleasant, flattest mountain in the states.
It is too.
and if
I
you
love-
want to play Detroit, let me know. So maybe you can go
Hitsville,
from
USA.
Detroit to wherever the fuck Ryan's from.
Yeah. Hitsville, USA. Haven't been
That's
yet.
right. That's right. See, there you.
Love Michigan. I
You
love
are
you.
part of Michigan, Hatchet. Just so you know, like you are Michigan. When you look at the
I
sky, you are part of us.
I feel personally like I feel an affinity to Detroit because Detroit, like Baltimore, second tier cities, have had have seen their fair share of industry fallout and a lot of urban decay, but also within that, the artists have, reclaimed the city and done really cool things. There's a lot of there's a lot of civil rights through Detroit. There's a lot of civil rights through Baltimore. There's I don't know, like I've I know a lot of really awesome people in the ska scene. I know a lot of people, really a lot of people, awesome people in Detroit who are not in the ska scene. Allison Lewis, Donnie, Dupe Dupree, some of those Inside Out Outlaws. I've had magical shows at it's like a biker bar. It's like a biker bar.
That doesn't help. Smalls, you've been at Smalls, you've been
What's the neighbor?
Corktown. In
Corktown, yes, Corktown Tavern.
Corktown Tavern. I played there with
been there.
HR. It's one of the most magical shows I've ever played. Yeah, we passed a joint around while HR was doing a spoken word over there. Who's got the herb rhythm, and it was like yeah, it was magical. Yeah, also Detroit adjacent in Toledo. I always have to big up the man Ken
Ottawa.
Hawes and guitars. So, yeah, I love
Did
y'all.
you call Toledo Detroit adjacent? Because you might be careful with that.
I can't say that.
Ohio, Michigan, there's kind of a thing
Yeah,
there.
I'm okay with
It's
it
an hour
personally.
away. It's like Toledo is to Detroit as
Don't
Baltimore.
say that. People, there's a
No?
big Detroit like.
I think folks are already
like,
picketing.
we like sports kind of shit going on.
It's like that.
Come on.
Yeah.
Homeboy's got to drive 2 hours for a show, and you can't drive an hour to Toledo. Come on.
I mean, I did it. I saw you guys read a review.
It's like the Berlin Wall.
That is actually
Tear
very
down
fucking
that
true.
wall, Detroit.
Anyway, Jess, Eric, Ryan, we can't thank you enough for having us on. So
Thank
awesome to
you.
get to talk to you. We appreciate you helping us promote what we're working on and the scene in general. So thank you so much.
Of course,
Thank
we
Yeah,
love
for
the
Scott
work.
and
Thank you.
Stagazine,
Yes, thank you,
smash
guys.
that like button, smash that subscribe button for them.
All
Absolutely.
right. Love you guys. And
Thank you.
good night, everybody.
Can't wait to hear
Thank
that single tomorrow.
you. All right.
Got
Thanks.
it.
Absolutely.
Night.
See y'all.